Hello, welcome to the Sit in Your Shit podcast. I'm EbonyVenice, one of your hosts, along with Moses. We are here to just help you along the path of enlightenment through actually working through your shadow work, or AKA your feelings that don't necessarily feel all good, warm, and tingly inside, in order to find your true, authentic self. So, with that being said, I'm going to allow Moses to jump us right into a conversation about anything and everything astrology related because that is his strong suit.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Moses, and I am an astrologer based in Denver, Colorado. So, talking about sitting in your shit, that is the exact way that I got into astrology to begin with. So, my astrology journey started at the same time as my therapy journey. I have always been into spirituality to some extent, but I really started taking astrology seriously when I was going through some of the darkest points of my life. And what I found that was so beneficial about it was just having the names for things, right? So, thinking archetypally, we all go through these different moments or periods of our life that test us, confront us, trials and tribulations, as my Christian pastor dad would say, that we get to dive into. And the reality is, we can see these moments of our life as a punishment. We could see these moments of our life as something terrible that's happened to us. But what if those moments are exactly the things that are going to help us become the person that we were called to be? That's why I think sitting in your shit is such an important thing. What do you think?
100% agree. And I'm going to apologize. My throat is all scratchies, but we're still doing this. So you're going to see me sucking. It's not candy. I'm trying to heal my throat. I got to talk through this. 1000% agree, Moses. I mean, that's the main thing that got me in this journey. I'm a psychic medium, but I did not start life. I'm a 4-year-old psychic. No, none of that. No, not at all. Honestly, it was about 3 years ago when I actually moved to Denver, Colorado. I'd gone through a big breakup with a fiance, all the things. Started a new career when I got here as well. And I was also like, I'm extremely shy and I've been working on this professionally for such a long time. But let me actually go and try to put some effort into doing that for my personal one on one relationships. Lots of negative self talk. And why on earth would I need to expose myself to other people's opinions and thoughts and such? Like, why would I do that? So once I was like working through all those things, so many things started coming online for me because I was literally working on my shit. So that's just a little bit about me. With that being said, though, I love what you said, Moses, like just really recognizing the fact that the obstacle is the way. I love using that term. I mean, that's definitely Ryan Holiday's book and such like that. Is very. I don't know if you've heard of him from like the Stoicism and such like that. So I was like,
Yeah.
I resonate with this, right? So really, the purpose of this podcast is really to give some more practical and tangible steps that you can do to start really connecting to your authentic self, aka higher self or higher conscious. Right? There's a lot of terms out there in the spiritual community that I wouldn't say is very spiritual awakening 101 friendly. The say you jumps you right into 202. And so I really wanted to put this platform together in order to help others, trying to just like make it make sense. Is this even in English? We talk about the shadow work, F is that, ego dev, right? And the dark night of the soul. Those are all key components of sitting in your shit alongside many other things. So Moses.
See, I don't even, so you use this term a lot, and I got to admit, it is something that I don't necessarily know about. When you say the dark night of the soul, very poetic, very lovely, but that's something that even to me is language that I just am not used to or not familiar with. So I'm sure we'll get into that at some point, but I think for me, I absolutely agree, especially coming from a Christian church before getting into the world of spirituality. It's very, very similar, very, very different. And I think like branching out into spirituality, there's this aspect of it that's like the wild, wild west, because where I came from in church, there was always like a common objective or a common goal because religion usually dictates a common purpose or a common objective or goal. So coming into the spiritual like community, It's Wild Wild West in the sense of like, oh, these people believe something that I've never even heard of. We all have different opinions on how literal some of the language we're using is. Like, some people are using past lives metaphorically, where some people say, no, legitimately, I'm talking about a past life or life cycles ago. And so for me, I feel like a little alien sometimes in the spiritual community because I'm like, what does this person mean? Are they being literal? Are they talking hyperbolically? Are they being serious? Are they being dead ass telling me that there are aliens speaking to them? And there's not necessarily a common agenda. Everyone's just kind of following their own internal moral compass. So that right there is like one of the most difficult parts of entering this world for me because you don't know where people are at in their beliefs.
1000%. There's so much advice out there. And on top of that, I would not suggest trying to go through like Googling your way through a spiritual awakening. Like that's a no-go,
That's how you
right? We're
learn
already
that
talking
angel numbers can mean anything you fucking want them to mean. Anything.
literally. People just throw stuff on the wall and they're like, yeah, this is what it means for me. Right. And I'm not dismissing angel numbers at all. Like I was one of those people where I'm like, oh, this is silly. And then I started getting hit with them later on. But yeah, in all due time, you start noticing these patterns and such like that. You'll come across it just from you just dabbling in the rabbit hole. And that's why I'm saying, like, I accept the fact that I've just been dropped in a rabbit hole. It's really Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole. Sometimes it's very smooth and flowy, and it's like, okay, a little calm, but most of the time, it's like, no, we're drowning, and there's no pause button, and you just hold on for dear life as you experiencing so many different things that makes you question your reality, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'm very curious about like what that looks like for you, Moses. Like just kind of like making that shift and that jump from organized religion into like a more spiritual aspect that isn't necessarily accepted within
Yeah.
the church.
Yeah, for me, there were a lot of things that I loved about being in church. And to this day, I don't hate the church. I don't feel any sort of like malice or contempt for being there. I'm a queer man, so I know when I'm not wanted somewhere. And I think that was the first and foremost thing that started causing this rift or separation from me. Because inherently, there was this disconnect a value system from the things that I thought I had learned. We talked about the beauty of diversity in church, but then when the actual churches were there, where was the diversity? We talked about every single person being loved by God. But if you do not subscribe to XYZ, or if you lose by default by being gay, or by being born in a different country, thus having a different religion, or whatever you want to say, the fact value split between those two things, the belief system of everyone is loved by God, and then how that actually plays out was incredibly inconsistent for me across the board. In churches, we used to always say that the church is a hospital. So you don't go there to find people who are good. You go there to find people who are sick. And understanding that will change your concept of the church entirely. But I think I just always inherently had a belief system that was a little bit more nuanced than that. That truly and consistently wanted to advocate for the best of people's intentions, while still holding accountability for our own personal development and growth. And so my introduction into spirituality was really around that. Like, if I'm going to pursue something, I want it to be consistent. I want it to have a solid framework, and I want it to make sense. And so when I started learning astrology, that was the gateway drug for me to start diving into all of this spiritual language that existed outside of the realms of my past religion.
Yeah, no, I can definitely resonate with that as well. My mother was raised Catholic. and did Catholic school, all the things. And my dad was raised Southern Baptist. And he wasn't really that attached to it, but that's what he was. But when they went to go get married and baptize me, the church essentially just refused. And so I didn't even have like a true introduction into the church. The only reason I had any type of experience in the church is because of my grandparents, right? And some other family members and such like that. But it was like during the summers and same as you, like noticing right just from the jump, right? Like I'm already being say like, no, you two are from different religions, so you can't get married. And of course, like this baby can be baptized. So again, it's like love everyone except this person, that person, the other person. Love thy neighbor, except, and I'm like, wait, what are these exceptions written? What's going on here? And so I agree with you. I've definitely struggled with that. And so, like, I'm not saying like church is bad or anything like that, but these are the things that I've definitely struggled with myself, just being rejected as a baby,
Yeah, well,
right?
and here's the thing, like, I am all for any religion that fights for love and fights for the equality of all people. And certainly there are denominations within Christianity that fight for that and that do that and who have shown willingness to change. And that's not the problem. But I think part of the problem that I experience being outside of the church now is they are one of the few establishments that has the ability to create community in a way that not a lot of other groups can, because you're uniting people around purpose. So the reality is we're missing a big part of community building through being excluded. So the more of these spiritual spaces that start coming up, these non-denominational spaces, or even just spiritual shops, because realistically that's all we have right now in terms of non-religious spirituality, the better it's going to be. And so the problem I'm having is just sort of finding that sense of community within it. And how unfortunate that the places that we do have are advocating and dipping their nose into political measures. They are doing things that, um, quite frankly, just exclude a lot of diverse thinking.
1000%. I'm like, and hello, like we're all on earth here. We're all humans. I'm like, I don't just looking at the big picture, I could even go back into like the whole reason American settlers were trying to get away from the king, right? From just wanted to be separate from England was they wanted to literally have the separation of church and state because a lot of people really were being prosecuted, persecuted, both and because of their own religions, right? And then yet we still see it playing out here where, oh, like we just want to pick and choose with aspects of the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, right? That we want to pay attention to and follow. And the other stuff was like, oh no, we need to bring the church back into the schools. I'm like, that was not the forefathers, as you say, their vision, right? Because that's got it in the mess in the first place. That's why so many people came to America. That's why we have so many villains and criminals that got sent to America. They didn't want to have to deal with our BS over in England anymore. Same thing in
Mhm.
Australia. It's like, we're all you little like upstarts, get out of here, right? Do your own thing. And yet people tend to forget that, right? And so it's just, it gets really interesting of yet like how strongly people here tend to forget that religion was the main reason America was established to fight that type of oppression and people could live their lives however they wanted as long as you're being peaceful and kind to your neighbor. Simple
Yep.
stuff.
I mean, what a great dream to have. I don't think we're going to get there anytime soon, but I do think things are getting better. And I see just the ability for us to have this conversation and the accessibility of this information that's out there. I mean, we have so many spiritual practitioners from the 80s and 90s to thank for having
The
access
70s.
to the shit. Hell yeah. Yeah. Especially the 70s. And I mean, shit, you could go back and thank every decade for it. But I think the preservation of astrology content for me is so much in part because of those astrologers from the 70s to 90s, like holding down the ground when it was popular, when it was not popular. The revitalization of a lot of these spiritual things, I guess, has been coming into the forefront, I would say, over the past, 5, 10 years. I know from astrology, people used to know their sun sign and that's it. Now you can find a lot of people who know their big three, or even better, their big six, and they've gotten familiar with like that astrology in a really cool and personal way. So I'll take the freedom of speech while I have it. I'll take the freedom to do whatever I want while I have it. And then hopefully we just keep fighting for what's going to get better.
Oh yeah, facts, facts. And I was definitely just that person. I was just like, I know my sun sign. And when I moved to Denver, I kept being asked, like, what is your big three? I'm like, I'm a Virgo. I'm like, what is your big? I'm a Virgo. I don't know what you're talking about, right? And honestly, I didn't even resonate with astrology. It didn't sound right for me. But recognizing, or more so, I should say, just understanding more about my big three, it started to make more sense. And even though I'm a Virgo sun, Virgo rising, but I'm a Sag moon. And that just throws a lot of stuff into a whole nother it's not balanced. Like it just
Yeah.
throws Virgo into a loop, right? So like this is why I don't resonate with this. And then like really paying attention, like, oh wait, like my mom is a Sagittarius and my dad is a Virgo. I'm like, oh, or and then I see how their relationship is, and I love them to death and they make it work, but it is. I was like, that's my internal struggle. I'm looking at it playing out in real life. It's
Yeah.
crazy, but we make it work.
But what sort of what sort of practices do you do? Because that's just astrology, and that's just even astrology language. But I'm always curious, when people are psychic mediums, that can mean a lot of different things to different folks. So, like, how would you describe what you do and practice, and how did you even learn about it?
Yikes. Well, it wasn't because I was just like super open to those types of things. I mean, actually, let me preface with this, right? I love Harry Potter, right? I love The Matrix. I'd read some type of fantasy books. I'd watch some Ghost Hunters, but I'm looking at like some of the more analytical aspects. Like, let's debunk these things. Like, no, we don't have the answers to everything. So my curiosity was always there. But then there started to be a shift where it started to feel like this fantasy land started to be my reality. And I was telling people, it's like, my reality is breaking. And they're like, I'm so excited for you. I was like, that doesn't exciting to me. I'm like really confused. I'm like, I love my friends to death. They just absolutely just answered wrong and didn't give me the type of like support that I wanted to be called crazy, that I'm mental, that like, oof, that sounds rough for you. Like maybe you should do something about it. Everyone was super supportive. So there is that. I'm super fortunate to have like the
Nice.
space and like the people around me that supported that shift for me, because I'm on probably just about 3 years in it. So for me, it really just started with a lot of different subtle signs, like, oh, that's interesting. So like I was extremely shy, right? Deathly shy as a kid. And personally, the only reason I started to work on not being so shy is because literally I have to make a living. And in order to do that, especially as an 80s baby, I had to talk to people. There wasn't just like I can be on the internet and never show my face and just be like in a chat type thing situation as a role, right? So I forced myself to really work on that, and I did that professionally for quite a while. But then there got to be a point during COVID, which I'm sure we all have like some type of COVID story, COVID share. But particularly for me, COVID was the first time when I wasn't around people anymore. Like I was had my work friends and such like that. They made friends with me. I was still not going out and making friends with people. No, because I'm a lazy friend maker. I'm grateful for my friends who found me though. But I recognize that I missed the energy of others. I recognize I missed there was like an energy missing. I wasn't saying like I miss talking to people, but it's like the energy of like, oh, I'm in the library and that's like the studious energy. I'm in the coffee shop and it's like, oh, this very like productive, like go, go, go energy, right? So these different spaces like carry different energies around. Like you can go to like a sports, like a basketball game, whatever. Like we all feel that collective energy. And so when I was by myself again, which I love being by myself, but for this extended period of time of literally just not being around anyone at all, I was like, oh, I kind of feel that. Right. So that was like one of my first sins. And I had to go back and figure that out. Right. But some of the other things was really me doing some off the wall stuff that it's not associated to someone who sees themselves as being shy. So, for instance, for me, I had actually gone back home to Chicago and I was in one of these speakeasy bars in a hotel. No ghosts or anything like that in this situation. But literally, I went out to go use the bathroom. I was like, hey, where's the bathroom? And they're like, oh, it's down the hallway. Well, myself and this other like couple, they were like looking for the bathrooms because it's just dark hallway. There's no signage and there's just a whole bunch of doors that are locked. It's just annoying. So we're all just like pulling on doors to figure out which one is the effing bathroom. And they found it first. I'm like, okay, cool. And that was that. I'm like, okay, great. We found these bathrooms. Later on the evening, I see them and we're listening to live jazz and such like that. And I see them just kind of like next to each other. And I see this image of like a heart, right? Like, oh, they're like together. I'm like, oh, heart, that's cute, right? But then this is where it goes left. Like I was compelled is the word, compelled to inquire, why weren't they married?
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you knew these people, yes?
I just met them, like, I didn't even know their names. So in
Okay.
the bathroom hallways, that's when I met them, right? So we're just listening to live music. Live jazz was great. And I'm just seeing this visual of a heart. And I'm like,
So you're like, why are you guys not married? That's quite
I
the
don't
question to
know.
lead with.
I don't even know where that question came up because, like, these people, why do I even give any fucks? To be honest, why? Right? But that was in my head, right? So again, this compulsion. And it wasn't like, let me go ask her, let me go ask the guy. So I go over to him and ask him, why is she married? Just out there, because like that's like not shy. That's not something a shy person does, period, right? Like never. That's not what most people will do to any stranger, because that's very intrusive. So again, compulsion is the word. And then he like was like shocked and he points to her, right? So he's already asked her for marriage, right? And so come to find out that she has all these fears and trauma and such like that around it. And then she was like, how do you know? And I'm like, I don't know, an empath? Like, I don't know what this is, because that was the only thing I've always known. I was an empath, but I have not been an empath at that time where I'm like drowning in emotions. Like other people are crying, then I start crying. I see something that's sad or super happy. Like that's not me. The only contagious thing I had was like when one person yawns, I yawn too. That's the most contagious thing that I actually had at the time.
Well,
So
no,
like,
and I think like for me, when I think of an empath, what I'm thinking is this person had a rougher time growing up for some reason, where they just became hypersensitive to the needs of others. And they can read it in some interesting ways. Like for me, facial expressions, the way that people reply, the way that people talk, the sort of like subtle visual cues that give it. And I'm sure that some people would take that more into a spiritual context of what being an empath is. But like, I definitely see it as that, right? Like, I had to learn how people were around me to fucking survive. So now I am just stuck with that ability all the time.
yeah, I mean, like, even for me, I've been a professional people watcher, so it's like you can just watch people, you can kinda see those subtle clues, like, they're there, right? You don't need any quote unquote "psychic gifts" to determine that, right? But I'm just gonna throw this out there from the jump though, to be human is to be psychic. It's just more so if you're aware of those psychic gifts, right? It's
Okay,
kinda like when we're
elaborate,
like
elaborate.
it's kinda like when, like, we're outside and such like that in nature, all the animals are around, and all of a sudden they're gone, and then we're still the only people there. Well, something's happening, something's going on. What senses are we picking on that they've definitely picked up on? No, there's this oncoming storm. They can sense the shift in the weather, right? These are all different subtle energies that we have been taught, we're not told to listen to, and in fact, at a very early age, like, we're basically suppressing that stuff. One, I know, like I talked about, I don't want to get us way down rabbit holes, but this is a rabbit hole type podcast
I'm
here,
in.
so
Let's do it.
we're just gonna have to do it, right? But essentially, it's just like, imagining yourself trying to what's a good example? You're in a foreign country, right? You don't know the language, don't speak it, can't read it, such like that. How do you go about knowing if you're safe, if you can go and ask someone for help? How do you do that, right? You're not gonna logic your way through this. It's not be like, "Brain, hello, tell me what I need to do." You're gonna use your senses, right? At an early age, most boys in America at least, are basically told like, if you have emotions, you're not a man, right?
Yeah.
If you're a woman, female, girl, right? You're too emotional, you can't be trusted with shit.
Mhm.
There's this, you hear like the women are from, or men are from Mars, women are from Venus, right? But it's like, no, we're actually raised in a way that says like, okay, men, you focus on the logic, suppress your emotions. Women, you can have emotions, but you don't have any sense. You don't have logic, right? And so already we're put into like this very masculine-ish society in most first world countries that say like to be masculine is to be right because you have the logic, you're not ruled by the emotional state. Whereas it's a suppression of the emotions, aka meaning it's weakness,
Yeah.
right? So that's where you're gonna see a lot more women in spiritual spaces, right? With these gifts. It's not so much like because men don't have them, it's just that you all basically been told to suppress that shit. So there's
Absolutely.
that.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. And here's the thing, I talk about it through the standpoint of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And I feel like that is one of the biggest missing pieces from men, and especially men who are in leadership, is the return of the acceptance of the divine feminine that exists inside every human. And that's it, is like we are not masculine or feminine on the basis of our sex. We are all of these things bound up together in one package in sometimes equal parts. Sometimes it's a sprinkle more masculine femme. But however you identify, the divine feminine encourages reflection. The divine feminine encourages discussions about feelings. And the reality is, we have to start having those conversations because the aspects of divine masculine is about being a provider. That's part one. And that's the part that everyone wants to harp on and focus on. But the other aspect of the divine masculine is the protector. And the reality is, we have lost our sense of what is worth protecting. And so, for anyone who's coming into their moment of spiritual awakening, there has to be a question that is asked of what do you stand for? What do you value? And what is worth protecting? And so, I think you have to have the divine feminine um not under control, what do you say, like you have to have like mastered your own understanding of what that means to you to really sit there, feel and think through, okay, I feel this way, I know that things should be nurtured, I know that things need to be loved, I know that things need to be protected. And the protecting of the innocence is kind of where these two archetypes meet in the middle. They just do it in different ways. But I'm hoping to see more and more men step up to the plate with this because it is so inherently important to have the representation of men in it, but also for men and women to both realize not just divine feminine, but also eventually return to the divine masculine qualities once we've gotten our shit figured out.
1000% yes, because literally I had a very difficult, so I do tarot reading as well, but I had a very difficult reading. And the only reason I say it was difficult is because I do readings kind of based off of like what do you need to hear, not what do you want to hear. Like you can get what you want to hear all the time. People are always telling you you can listen to a lot of stuff to tell you what you want to hear, right?
Yeah.
But realistically, especially for an awakening and such like that, the focus is what do you need to hear? And so this person, they're male and they're actually very shy, but I'm getting like all these visuals of like leadership, leadership. It kept coming up, right? But because of the way that we're only seeing masculine, but not the divinity of the masculinity, right? It's like, oh, well, I don't want to be that person. Like I'm seeing those people in those power roles and such like that. Like they're not really nice people. And I can say the same for a lot of women too. Like we're seeing those like leadership roles, like, oh, to be a leader, you have to like be screaming, yelling the loudest, you have to step on everyone else, right? There's just a lot of characteristics that we've been exposed to that this is what it means to be a leader. This is what it means to have power. And they're not necessarily feeling all good and warm inside, right? So
Yeah.
that's just how most of our society has been operating for a very, very long time. I mean, thousands of years, to be honest, it feels like. And so to kind of break out that system, which is what we're seeing, more women stepping into the power, but definitely more heart-centered men as well that are definitely embracing their divine feminine and the divine masculine to help uncover what it looks like to be a leader and to have power. And being a leader in power is just a way to make change in our society of what we want. So it's not necessarily negative, right? But we just have to create our own reality of what a good leader is, what it means to have power and using it for good,
Yeah,
right?
you
Wh-
have to encourage the systems that allow people to make the right choices. And that is a really subjective thing to say because what is a right choice? But there are so many positions and areas of leadership where people are not the end goal. It is about using people. So this sort of like person-centered leader is kind of the return that I'd like to see anyways.
I 1000% agree. So that's basically what I was expressing in this read and what it looks like, especially for a shy person, because like a shy person, like you're not like what you're not even like you couldn't even possibly imagine yourself being any type of leader first and foremost. Like I barely like to even fucking talk to people. So how can I even be a leader? And so like working through that is like, oh, that little voice of like something that wants to come out of your throat that you want to say, but you're suppressing it down. It's those things because I told him, I was like, well, it's like you specifically as a shy male or a shy female and such like that, we are paying attention to everyone else. We're watching and reading the room more than other people. Whereas like someone who's like considers themselves maybe and because there is such thing as a shy extrovert, that's a whole other thing. But like someone who's more extroverted and they're out there and maybe they are in that leadership role, they're too busy talking and trying to like boost their ego up here and being at the top. They're not paying attention to everyone else's feelings, their emotions, what their skill sets are and such like that. It's just like, how can I be at the top and boost myself up and say all these things of how amazing I am? And I'm basically not even paying attention to anyone else around me. That's the expression of like the shadowy aspects of masculinity, right? But there's
Yeah.
also this amazing aspect where a leader is paying attention to every single person on the team, can understand each individual's unique skills, and also keeping their own ego in check and recognizing like, hey, like I am the leader, but that doesn't mean I need to not have like not acknowledge my team that they're supporting me, right? Because we definitely have the society that's saying like, hey, yeah, just pull yourself up from your bootstraps and you can just do it all by yourself. And that's so fucking far from the truth. Anyone who's even saying that, honestly, they're not even being truthful, period. We didn't come into this world by ourselves. We're not going to leave this world by ourselves, right? And we're definitely not going to survive this world by ourselves. Everyone gets some type of support. You have some type of mentorship. You may have some type of handle. You might have something. Someone got you to where you are today, period.
Yeah.
So that story is a effing lie. So I know specifically for someone who is shy and like and fears the power, fears leadership, they're the most humble people. They will not. It'd be really hard for them to step into a place of power and forget that because it was just a very strong identity that has been within, and they understand the feeling of having someone who is up there not giving any shits about them, right?
Yeah.
Not anticipating their needs, like, by just coming to you like, "Hey, like, is there anything you wanna say about XYZ?" I'm not saying, like, you have to always be out there. I'm not saying, like, every shy person has to be a leader. No. This just particular person, they definitely just have these leadership skills within them, right? So just take some unraveling, unbinding, I would even say, of, like, how you see yourself in order to really show up, and it takes a lot of removing the, opinions, beliefs,
Yeah.
imprints of others on the greater society, and then you can get very, very granular getting into, like, just family and how that's showing up. Like, were you allowed to express yourself? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Right? Like, were you kinda like the children should be seen, not heard, right? And that kept going until adulthood, like, you're still a child when you're 20, child when you're 30, but that stuff can still happen. There's so many layers of how this gets expressed in our lives, right?
Yeah.
And really the core of like sitting in your shit, finding your authentic self is unraveling all other people's opinions, thoughts, and such like that. So you can actually like understand like, but what is me if I didn't have everyone telling me what I should be doing and what I should look like, and this is what I should be striving for, or this is what makes a good person, a good productive person to society. All of these things have a great impact on ourselves and how we even show up. There's a lot of people that they're doing amazing financially and they're miserable because it has
Hmm.
nothing to do about them being their actual unique, authentic self. And a lot of people think they're being super unique and authentic. It's like, no, you're not. You can't say that I'm being super unique and not my authentic self when that someone's told you that when you grow up, you're going to do X, Y, Z, one, two, three, like the doctor, the lawyer, the teacher, whatever it is, like that's been told to you, like you're told, not asked, told that
Yeah.
this is what you should be doing. And you follow those steps and you do that. And then you've done it and you accomplished it. And you're like, I don't even feel fulfilled.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and here's like for me, this conversation comes down to knowing yourself. And when we're talking about sitting in your shit, it's like fully knowing yourself as well as your own issues. And so many folks who come into spirituality are indecisive. A lot of folks who come into spirituality are, for lack of better words, like too focused on their own healing. Like they think that there's something inherently wrong with them. And my journey in spirituality has just been about reclaiming the parts of myself that I actually really strongly identify with and fuck with. And no matter if you're in leadership or not, you have to know what hills you're willing to die on and what you're willing to stand for. And that is the divinity of the divine masculine that has to make a return, where at some point we have to start saying, okay, I've healed, I have worked on myself, or I'm in the process of healing. I'm in the process of working in myself. It's a lifelong thing, but you can't allow your healing, your shadow work to outweigh your action forever, right? There's a period of rest. There's a period of sitting back and learning, but the idea that there is something worth fighting for, that's the thing that's missing so much, because a lot of us are willing to talk about it, but not so many of us are willing to actually apply it into our daily life. So the shadow work doesn't just start at, I'm a bad person, I'm this, I'm that. A lot of the times it can be, I'm a person who has no idea who the hell I am. I don't know what I stand for because I feel like all I am is this giant combination of coping mechanisms. And the reality is, when you've gone through trauma early on in life, as many of us had, you start to wonder, what's the trauma and what's my personality? And at what point does
Mm,
this stuff really end? So I recommend it. I recommend this podcast really for anyone who is looking to regain their sense of identity and to use shadow work and sitting in your shit as a way to reclaim your own personal sense of power. Because this is the thing where I will strong handedly disagree with Christianity. For the majority of people listening, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you. And this idea that you are inherently sinful, that you are inherently bad, does nothing but remove your own personal sense of agency and power from yourself. And that's the first thing that we have to start breaking, is this idea that your opinion is worse than someone else's. I'm sorry, I've met a lot of fucking people and a lot of them are dumb. A lot of them are stupid. A lot of them I wouldn't take advice from. And I can be spiritual and say that, God damn it. And that's the thing. Like, you have to know who you are and what you stand for. So
yeah.
it activates every single part of you, from body to mind to heart to emotions to spirit. All of these things are included in this package.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. Love every single thing, right? Like, even for myself, what made me really decide to do the work as far as like overcoming shyness specifically, I was like, no one's gonna know me. And it's like, even with the friends that I've had for years, decades, high school, blah, blah, there are so many things that they still don't know about me because I have all these bits and pieces like that I'm sharing. So I'm still like very much compartmentalized about who I am. And I didn't really even know who I was until I started allowing myself to get very uncomfortable and going outside to one places I actually do like to go to typically if I was with someone, just doing that by myself. And then 2, set an expectation and letting people know, like, informing them, like, "Hey, I'm shy and I'm trying to make friends." And most people are like, "Oh, yeah, cool." And I'm, like, just doing the, "My name is," and I'm, like, feeling, like, just horrible inside, right? It's like it was work, right? Every Friday and Saturday, I was going out, treated it like a job that I had to do in order to start feeling comfortable just saying, "Hi, my name is Ebony." Right? It was
Yeah.
a serious struggle for me, and then it got to the point where I was like, "Okay, I'm doing this and such like that," and I started attracting and magnetizing artists and creatives towards me, specifically more than, musicians. And then I started getting asked like, "Well, are you a musician?" and such like that. I'm like, "No, I'm a business major." Like, I've been a supply chain professional for over 20 years, right? But it's like, "Oh my gosh," like, I totally forgotten that I played freaking viola from elementary school to high school. Who forgets stuff like that, right? I'm just push that all down, those creative aspects of me, like the chorus, right? The writing, doing scripts, a bit of theater, all that stuff, which is like, no, I'm not, what are you talking about? I'm an artist. I'm not a creative, right? Because I definitely had the, oh, you don't want to be a starved artist type vibe going up in the family, right? It wasn't pushed strongly, but it was definitely there. The expectations of like, yeah, you can't do this. That's not a thing. That's not acceptable. Right. And so as I started just meeting more and more people and they're all like musicians and such like that, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I love this. Right. And then like music started coming back in my life. And now like I can't push it away. So that's like, yeah, I'm going out. I'm dancing, I'm moving my body. I'm like using music really for healing and such like that, which is a great way to stay in your shit too. Like, especially just allow yourself to express your feelings, allow them to flow. But I'm also like, okay, let's not have like the sad song playlist for 24 hours going, please end this on a happy song by the end of the night. Like, let's cry it out. Let's go through the emotions, whatever. But end on a song that always makes you feel good, period, before you go to bed at night. That's just my thing. This is what I suggest, people.
No, yeah, yeah, no, I get it. And really what you're talking about is like living up to the fullest expression of who you are and not casting judgment on yourself for holding whatever title you hold. Like, yeah, you are a musician if you play that. You may not have done it in a long while, but that's still an active part or still a part of who you are. And we turn off so many different aspects of ourselves, or we dumb ourselves down to people in order to have a narrative that's going to be the most appealing, the most appropriate, the most situational, that oftentimes we end up without thinking it. We unconsciously subscribe to that narrative without understanding how harmful it can be.
Exactly, exactly. So now here I am, like, doing this, like, a podcast. I would never imagine this. Like, just I could not, right? And I definitely had to get a lot of feedback from others, right? So because I've been, like, by myself, I'm doing my own thing, guess what? Like, I have all this negative self-talk. Like, me and my brain are best friends with, like, why you shouldn't have put any effort into, like, making friends, right? Like, why would you want drama? Like, why would you want, like, to have girlfriends? They bring all this stuff, like, "Oh, these guys are gonna be on some BS. They just wanna try to do something shady with you," right? Like, you wanna you don't wanna be around that. Like, it's just fine. You in your own little bubble. You have your 2.5 friends. Life is great, right? But also, I'm dying inside. I'm lonely, right? I'm also, like, having a more, like, codependent relationship in my romantic relationship because that's the primary person I'm with. And then I also had to realize that I was very much attracted to men that were really outgoing and they didn't have any problem speaking. But guess what? That was literally because that's what I genuinely desired for myself.
Yeah, yeah,
And so
absolutely.
I'm thinking like, yeah, okay, like if I'm just around there, like I'll just get like whatever people. I don't have to do any work. they're doing all the work for me. But ultimately, it's like, no, I have this desire to connect with other people, and I had no idea that was there because of the fact that I've been suppressing myself for so long. But literally for me, it felt like there was a physical pain for speaking as well,
Yeah, well, and
right?
also,
It literally hurt.
yeah, your tribe is so important. Your tribe is like the most important thing because had I been with my last ex and told him that I wanted to do astrology, he would have looked at me fucking crazy. And me, like, having not worked through my shit at that point, I would have been like, you're right. Sorry. I guess I'm just garbage and bad. And that's how it would have ended. But like, actually finding an audience that appreciates you doesn't mean it has to be the biggest one, but shit, it can be those two friends. Or
Mhm.
also, like, just moving to a place where people don't know you. God, when I moved from Texas to Colorado, I was like, fucking amazing. I get to recreate myself. I get to be whoever the hell I want to be because I'm no longer around those folks. I'm no longer around those folks who knew me when I was what, from 12 to 20. It's like
Yeah.
the judgment of those labels just kind of gets thrust upon you.
Yeah. Definitely. And even still, when you're getting into a place where you're trying to establish more healthy boundaries for yourself so you can really discover yourself, and then you start to express those things with other people. Now, guess what? Like you've been kind of in this status quo for X amount of years. You've basically set some expectations with those people. Now, people are either going to continue to fuck with you as you're establishing those boundaries, but more than likely, there's a strong likelihood that a lot of those people are going to feel a certain way and they're going to talk shit about you or like, what is this? What are you doing? You're not here for me. Because on top of that, especially when we talk about like that codependency, people pleasing type aspect, right? It's like, oh, I'm always there for this person. You try to pull it back and like, whoa, wait, what do you mean? I need you. Like, what is going on? You're like, no, 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 I don't need you. And then like they feel a certain ways like, oh, you're not a real friend. You don't actually care about me. You don't love me, blah, blah, blah. How all those things start getting like expressed. Right. But then
Yeah.
just having the conversations and just like in the way that we're sitting down right now, I'm not talking about trying to hash this out when both everyone is like on this very like emotional state. Nothing everyone's talking to everyone, nothing is actually getting to any brain, right? There's nothing happening. You're just talking, there's nothing there. But just in a calm conversation like this, right? And just saying like, "Hey, I'm recognizing like I have not been showing up as I really feel who I am. I feel very suppressed right now." And I'm working on myself and I'm trying to establish some boundaries for myself so I can have time to discover who I am. So I might not be there in the way that I have been before, right? And if you can just sit down and express it in a way like that, I would feel most people would get it. But if they don't get it, then you automatically know that they're not there for you.
They're not your people.
They just wanna take from your cup, right? Like you're pouring into other people's cup, people should be pouring into your cup too, right? This isn't like I just continue to get drained. I'm showing up for everyone, 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 and no one's actually there for me. That's an expression of that. And that's how people pleasing can turn into a codependency situation for both people. Right? And it's
Yeah.
just, like, cutting out that system. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and to me, like the astrology of that, one of the things that I think of is now the North Node is in Pisces, but for the past year and a half, it's been between Aries and Libra. And Aries is a sign that represents like self. It doesn't really think twice. It rushes in. It just does things based off of the first instinct, right? And that is the instinct of self. It's not questioning yourself. It's not thinking outside of your own optics. That's what Aries is really good at. And this past year and a half with the North Node in Aries, a lot of folks, especially a lot of Libran folks or a lot of folks who have been people pleasers in their lives, had to come to terms with this idea that sometimes compromise is the worst thing you can do. And active relationship building is so important for your own sense of well being. And I don't know about you, but I kind of honestly want more leaders who are shy. I want more leaders who think critically about things. I want leaders who consider the group before they consider themselves. But those leaders over the past year and a half have had to learn how to find their voice and how to find their place amongst it. And that comes contrary to so many things that you think as a codependent person, because the first instinct is How are people going to think about this? How did this person think whenever I said this? What did they think of me? All of those questions start pouring in. And if you're not doing the work, then you'll get lost in that sea of opinions and never actually get to the point that you're trying to reach, which is like having a vision and sticking with it. If everyone else is dependent on this vision, well, you don't even know if they share the same one as you.
1000% I agree with that. Yeah. I mean, for me, like, I couldn't, at the point where I was at starting this let me, like, not be shy, right? I couldn't even get to a place where I would imagine this, right? So it's definitely small steps. So first goal, for me, the way that I express my shyness, I definitely shy introvert, right? So literally just meaning like introvert, meaning like I need to have my alone time by myself in order to recharge, right? So just because you're an introvert doesn't mean that you're shy, because you can be a shy extrovert too, by the way. But with that being said, when I moved to Denver, I just came from Nashville during COVID, and obviously very different beliefs on like what COVID was or wasn't, right? Like Nashville was like business as usual. Denver was a dystopian place where felt like one person's like masked up on a deserted street, right? And it was the first time when I went into a place, and I've been very comfortable going to places by myself because I knew I wasn't going to put any effort like making friends. So I was like, I'll just go do my thing by myself. So I'm a big like solo adventure, international travel person. I don't mind doing that. And I'll do the bare minimum to get around, to ask for help if needed. Okay, so there's that. So it's not completely, fully shy at that point, but just enough. But at the same time, moving to Denver was the first time where I felt like I just was standing out a lot, because they're like, if you don't have anyone, like you don't know anyone, do not look at them, do not talk to them, do not breathe on them, like nothing. Don't do it. Right. And it was the first time that I started to feel self-conscious about it, right? Very uncomfortable about it. But what I started to do as far as like breaking that mindset mold of like, oh, there's someone judging me and such like that, I was like, I thought about the like a food critic, right? A food critic going to a restaurant, they're not necessarily with a large group of people. They could just be eating their dinner alone, right? Now, if someone is like so involved in like you and your food and what you're doing by your fucking self, that's their shit. Period. Like,
Or
why are you all over here? Like, don't you have this whole group of people? Like, oh my gosh, look at them, they're eating by themselves. I start thinking about forgetting Sarah Marshall. He goes to think in Hawaii, like you're just here, like by yourself. I mean, I wouldn't say do that there, right? Don't go to a wedding destination and then like by yourself and then, oh my gosh, like that, what's going to happen there. But in general, right? There's a lot of people that start getting into other people's things. Like, why is a stranger so concerned what the fuck I'm doing eating by myself? Why is that your concern? Like, why are you so worried about that? Do you not have other shit to do? And I just allow people to sit and think whatever the fuck they want to think. Like, that's the type of mindset I had to take in to start feeling okay, because I'm literally just hearing and listening and feeling other people just whispering and such like that. That's how I just pushed it down. It's like, actually, I'm starting not to care. And so there's like levels of like no fucks given. Obviously, it takes work. You just have to like, again, like this was a little bit after I got to the point like, hi, my name is, right? Very uncomfortable. But I never actually really gave any fucks about what the fuck people were thinking about me when I was doing my own thing by myself, because I didn't care. Like, I'm not trying to be your friend. You're not trying to be my friend. I'm not expelling this energy for you, right? And so the same, it could be applied when I was actually actively making friends and such like that, but I'm still was showing up authentically. I feel like the beautiful thing as like some person that does not resonate. Like, remember how easy it was to make friends in high school? No, I don't. I don't resonate with that at all. So like making friends in my late 30s as me showing up how I've always been, right? I'm not, there are no standards that I held myself to other people's opinions, because of the fact that I knew I wasn't even trying to make any effort to make any friends. So I can just show up as me. Now I'm still like doing a lot of like quote unquote shadow work and trying to understand what aspects of me have been imprinted from my family and society. But for the most part, with me like choosing not to intentionally make friends, it relieved me from other people's opinions on how I have to show up. So I feel like there's a beauty in that for myself, right? So kind of getting into how did all the psychic stuff and all the psychic gifts, the mediumships are happening. It was like, yeah, when I started using my voice, I have my Chiron in the 10th house, and a lot of like little Gemini throat chakra wounds. Literally 3 weeks ago, I found out that the throat chakra is directly connected to clairaudience, right? So I gave you that
Mm.
example of like me like saying this random thing to these strangers. Like that was weird. I didn't feel that was not me. I don't do shit like that. And I still feel a little uncomfortable with that. It's like that's like your auntie who's like, "We're kids." Like that doesn't feel like what to me. And it's like I'm a stranger, like going up to people doing this, right? And I do not suggest this like that horrible psychic medium work, but at that point, like I was channeling, like that's what that was. Like I was not myself. Someone else was stepping in for me. Like those none of those actions were really my status quo. Like me knowing myself, like I would never do that shit. I
Yeah.
Period. I would never do those things, right? And every now and then, spirit would drop in and just like push me to do something. So there's that. So this is the mediumship aspect, where it's like, yes, that's connecting with those who have passed and then other entities as well. So there's that.
See, and
And
that's
like
a
I, s-
whole nother episode because I got a lot of questions for you on that one. See, like, I am the exact opposite way. Like, I feel like such a hypocrite sometimes because, like, okay, I know astrology works. I know when I read tarot cards pretty consistently, I get a message through to somebody that is relevant that leaves says, oh, you read me for filth, this, that, or the other. But I cannot attach myself to the word psychic for some reason. And I think that is probably a little bit of my own like bullshit or my own like fear of being seen like fully authentically in that way. But then also, I don't really claim to be. I'll tell people every time I do a tarot pull, I say I have 72 cards in front of me that represent 72 memes or 78, one of those. I got 78 memes. Each of them is a human experience that everyone goes through at some point. My job's to interpret the cards, yours is to apply the meaning. You tell me if it's wrong. And that is like how I've always led it. And funny enough, it's like doing the no, I'm not really psychic thing. And then like doing a reading that's absolutely accurate for somebody. And they're like, you're psychic. I'm like, no, not me. Stop. Give me more attention. Tell me more about how good I am.
listen,
That's where I'm at.
I
I'm gonna
feel
be
you.
honest.
I feel you. So I did not just like land. I'm like, I'm a psychic medium. It took, it took a while. Like it took, so it was probably 2022, 23, end of 2022, to be honest, that I was gifted a reading, a harmonic astrology reading. So again, I was not resonating with astrology. So it was like you gave me a reading of not even like the standard traditional type readings, harmonic astrology, which essentially
I
is
still have like I've never heard anyone do harmonic astrology like before you said it.
yeah, so harmonic astrology, if you think about it's literally thinking about the vibration. So instead of like we have the natal chart is like this one stamp and is like sedentary, but that's not the case. There's a vibration. So it's kind of like quantum physics and music theory together, right? So you're just literally feeling the energies of the planets itself. So they're not necessarily using the zodiac sign in order to determine what those energies look like. Because also too is like the thought of like, okay, well, if we're not always on Earth, we can't use the zodiac sign. The zodiac signs only work on Earth, right? So we're just using the expressions of the planets. So as you know, every zodiac sign is represented by some type of planet, right? So it's just instead, we're just focusing on the planets instead. And the woman that did my reading was Clarissa Dolphin. And while she was explaining a lot of stuff that I didn't understand, I'm like, I'm hoping she is going to make this make sense because she was like geeking out on this. And at the time, she was the president of the International Society of Astrological Research. So I was like, okay, you're really geeking out on me. She's like midpoints and all these things. I'm like, but my question was, which I had actually had forgotten about this astrology reading because it kept having to get like moved around a little bit, like when I was trying to book it. But thank goodness, like I put it in my calendar and like it was a Labor Day weekend on the Sunday. And I had asked like, what should my career purpose look like or soul purpose, something like that. Cause I'm like, I don't know what to ask. Right. But I definitely have felt a little stagnant in my career. I was like, what's next? I'm a little bored. Like I've been doing this for a while. Didn't know. So essentially she told me that I should be a professional diviner. And I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking, do astrologers just tell other people that they should do what they do? Because I'm like, that's interesting. Right. And then diviner kind of falls into a few things, including like the tarot reading, psychic mediumship. It just kind of falls into all those things. Right. But I was just like very confused, but I had like an amazing poker face. Right. But I knew at that point there was stuff already going on. So I knew something was up. And I'm just so grateful for the friend that I had who did my first like tarot reading, oracle card reading. She's like, "Do you want one?" I'm like, "Sure, whatever. I don't know anything about this. I'm not opposed." Right. And so once I had that reading and she was like reading me like a fucking fiddle. I'm like, what? She could see my music, she could see the art, and she's like, and the beauty and the music and all this. I'm like, what are you talking about? You have all these placements for being a psychic. And I'm like, what are you looking at? I'm a Virgo. Like, what are you talking about? No idea what she's saying, right? And but she ended this like just 30 minutes. She ended this reading saying, like, you need to take this serious, right? You need to take this serious. Like, this is practitioner level work. And I'm like, all right, let's go into this like humor me type thing. Cause again, like at this time, there was stuff going on for sure. There's already like little signs. I already told you about one of the signs. There was quite a few, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, how do I find someone? And she was like, well, there's a psychic medium I know, but she's like, don't worry about it. You'll find someone. And not even a week later, someone was in my stories. They were a psychic medium and they were doing beginner practice circles and they were evidential psychic medium. And I started working with them, right? And then at that time, like I had already knew that there was like some mediumship. I was already hearing voices, hearing names. This is clear audience and such like that. So clear hearing. And so, like, I had been like, no ghost, no ghost, no ghost. Don't want to deal with any ghosts. Like, nope, don't want to see. Oh, you can't. Nope, nope, stop this, right? And so when I signed up for that class, she's like, here's this dead person, tell me about them. I'm like, oh, shit.
Here's this dead person. Tell me about them. That's how psychics get trained. I did not know that this is what we were doing.
That's one way to do it. Yeah. But what I liked about her though specifically because like she's a very practical, like she was an accountant, right?
Gotcha.
Like, she's like, Spirit. She's like, I work for Spirit. Spirit called me into this. Like, I was making great money. People are like, oh, you're like the sham. Like, you're taking people's money, blah, blah. She's like, oh, I was making amazing fucking money. I did not have to do this. But that call was coming. And then, like, when I started doing that, just practicing. And then, like, by the last session, when it came to, like, specifically the mediumship work, I couldn't, I mean, just as much as I really did want to deny it every now and then, like, but I'm talking to a stranger. I don't know anything about them. Right. And like I'm talking about like her grandfather and like the men in her family and like where they grew up at. Right. Like just like naming these things is all coming through. And really, the only way to allow that to happen is to one, just like not be like, how am I doing this? What's happening? Like you can't be in your head about that. You just have to allow things to come through you. And a lot of that comes online when you do start doing your inner work, your shadow work. Because if you have thoughts and opinions about some things that might come up in a reading, now you're biased. Now you can actually really just give whatever message is coming through to you because now you're blocking it through your own inherent biases, right? So
Yeah.
that's why shadow work is so important when it comes to your psychic gifts, period. Because you can block those out, right? You're like, I don't know what that is. So no, there's of course you're psychic. Like there's of course you are, right? Intuitive as fuck, which intuition is a key psychic gift, right? It's clear feeling, clear knowing,
Yeah,
right?
it's very that. And I feel like people don't understand what that looks like. Like when I read tarot, yes, I read the meanings, but each card has about however many readings you want to. Each card has however many definitions you want to give it and interpretations as you want to give it. And so when you are in the moment, I have no way to describe this other than to say, like, when I practice reading tarot, nothing would necessarily come through. But the second that I started doing it for other people and really started just letting the word vomit out of my mouth, the better it was. And for me, like the psychic gift or the psychic ability that I like to talk about that happens with me is just the words come or you get an image in your brain. It is not this ooky spooky, your vision goes out image. Doesn't have to be. It was just like, okay, I would see this like quick mental picture come up. And the more you start grabbing on to some of those thoughts, you may have no idea where you're getting at, no idea where it's going. But at least in my case with the cards, the more I just trusted the first thing that came out of my mouth, the better it was. The more I thought about it, the more I argued with myself, the more I was trying to weigh out the options, the more difficult it would become. And here's the thing, I know there are still times when I'm wrong. I know there are still times where I do not have the right answer for someone, and that's okay. And that's why there's a little bit of grace in this community for readings, because ultimately the goal is to help people move on to their journey, and you're not sure how you're doing that. Your words could be being used in a way that you are completely blind to because you have no idea what's going through that person's head. So it's easy for you to come out of a situation like that where you feel like you're spiritually gifted or you feel like you're psychic, etc. And then, the person just leaves and you have no idea what's happened. They didn't give you any feedback. They didn't tell you how good you were. They just got up and left. And it's like the magic of that moment is understanding that that was exactly the thing that was supposed to happen for good experience, bad experience, learning moment, learning opportunity, learning how to use the right words, or you potentially just transform someone's life and you're unaware of it. And that is what it is.
1000%. Yeah. 1000% true and accurate, right? It's rare when I mean, I've definitely had some people like, "I don't resonate with this." I was like, "Okay, so you've resonated with everything else, but you're not resonating with this specific aspect." And usually those cards are the ones that's always shadow work, like, literally every single time. Every single time, and I was like, this literally, like, there's this heartbreak or just, like, pain or suffering, I'm not in pain, and they have, like, an attitude like that too, and I was like, "Oh, you're definitely in pain. You're" like, I'm again, like, the subtle cues, like, why are you upset about I don't resonate with this. I don't like it's
Yeah.
kinda like, I don't like this, right? But I always, like, lead with my when I'm, like, explaining, like, how this reading is gonna go, it's like, "I'm gonna tell you what you need to hear. This is not about what you wanna hear." I always say that period because that's how my guides work, right? This ain't about like again, like, why aren't you married? What you doing?
Yeah.
What's up with that, right? So like, yeah, like giving grace to myself and such like that. But this is just at this point. I'm not saying I was always there and confident and such like that. Obviously, this started with friends and such. And it took me about 6 months to actually I had a tarot deck and I picked up with a mentor that I had early on. That's a whole nother conversation. But I didn't really use anything. I watched him like go through the deck and like explain just this beautiful story and such like that. He could pull out all 78 cards and like tell you your whole life story. I'm like, oh shit, what the fuck is happening here? Right. I was
Mhm.
not there, but he helped me pick out my first deck, and I knew I wasn't even in a space to give readings because I still had like love wounds and such like that. Like I said, like I moved here from a breakup. I'm not mad about the breakup, but I was just like, I still had love wounds, right? And I'm like, so was about love. And I'm like, fuck this shit. I'm not going to be able to talk about it. Exactly what you said. It's going to be my own ego shit, right? And even now, I'm not opposed to talking about love. That's fine and dandy. But I also like to focus on self love because people are like, well, I want love. I want this person. I want that person. I'm like, are you loving you though? Are you showing up for you? And it's like showing up as authentically you is how you actually attract the partner that you really deeply, truly desire. Beyond like, oh, he has to have like this kind of car, he has to have this kind of money, he has to have this and this and this, or she has to have that, or whom they, whatever. All these like kind of societal things that say like you had to have this particular standing in order to be my person. And for most people, it has nothing to do with fucking feelings, how they treat you, how they make you feel. Do they look good? Are they attractive? Oh, you two look so cute together. So I don't give a fuck if we look good together. That's not looks aren't guaranteed forever. I see people's face fall apart when they hit certain ages. That's what's going to keep y'all through, right?
Mhm.
It's mutual respect and support for one another, period. because like when you're choosing to be in a relationship, that's the two of you and no one else. So everyone's like, oh, y'all look cute together. Y'all should get married. Y'all should be together. And not supporting you in your relationship. Like, yeah, that's nice. Okay. Like, that's a great little compliment here and now. But when shit gets real, that don't mean nothing.
Nope.
Right.
Yeah, you got to be very selective. And I think that just ties back perfectly to what we were saying about you can do some really stupid things when you're lonely. And you can do some really dumb ass shit whenever you are seeking approval because you don't have a strong idea of who you actually are. If someone's asking me to judge their sports game, they've got the wrong judge. You know what I mean? And the same thing goes for you and your audience. Like, you have to know, like, this person clearly isn't going to be my type of person. So, of course, they're going to have this view of me because we're not coming from the same place of interest, of morals, of integrity, of what we're looking for in the context of a relationship.
I appreciate you so much, Moses. This was fantastic.